What's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? Happy Wednesday. And can you believe it? It is December. It is December. It is the first Wednesday of December. Whew, it is the last month. I can't even say the last 31 because you are already 7 days in. But it is the last 31 days of the year. How are y'all doing? We would love to hear how you are doing with your businesses, your personal life, what is going on. Are you where you thought you would be at the end of the year, or are you in hustle mode and trying to work everything out? Hopefully you're not, and you're enjoying your family time and you took our advice and we was talking about hustling and working hard. At one point we're going to touch on all of this, not having to work in real time type business, but that's for another day. Today I need y'all to grab notebooks. Hit record, screen record something, save this, share this, grab your husband, your sons, everybody. Everybody needs to hear this talk. Because I've mentioned it like 20 episodes. We haven't been 20 episodes in, but I have mentioned it probably almost every episode since we started this thing. This is about to change your life, ladies. So I'm serious. Like, grab your drink, go get some water, hurry up and run. You got about 30 seconds. Get what you need, pen and paper, because Dayna is coming to y'all this evening. Oh, y'all, talk about your cycle. And you're probably like, your cycle? Like, I don't need to hear. Yes, you do. Listen, this is about to change how you feel during whatever your cycle is like. About to change how you operate. It's going to change your life. I know for me, this was mind-blowing. I am so super excited that she was willing to jump on here during this free time with y'all, and bless you with this, because I'm telling you, it's huge. So if y'all got y'all pen, y'all paper, your Ningxia, your wine, whatever you need, let's go. Come on, Miss Dayna.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So yes, as Tameka had alluded to, this is really going to be a powerful tool as a woman in your business. And as mentioned, even if you are not a woman, this is going to be a powerful tool when you are managing the feminine energy in your life. Because seriously, I think that there is, especially as a business owner, this ideology that we need to show up the same every single day. And that if we show up with that intensity every single day, we're actually going to be more productive. And the reality is that's just not true. Okay. So there's something that's super important that you just keep in mind. And I'm going to throw out some big words, but just relatively, I'm going to just kind of break it down what exactly that means. So many of us are familiar with the circadian rhythm, right? So many things follow that whole circadian rhythm. And so we think of that in that whole 24-hour frame of mind. Okay. So when you think about the way most like motivational speakers or most business gurus will have you do is what do they tell you? Start your day early, right? Start your day early. That's when you're most impact. That's the most intensity of your day. And then from there, trail off, right? And while I'm not disagreeing with that, I think it's so important to understand that standard was built by a man, okay? Where it makes absolute sense for a man, because within a 24-hour period, their body does what our body takes to do in 28 days. Okay. And so that's where we kind of bring in that circadian versus the infraradian cycle. And when we think about those things, we really kind of put that in more perspective. Okay. So if you understand just how productive you can be, especially if you're male or masculine, in a 24-hour period, you can actually maximize that same thing as a feminine energy in a 28-day cycle. Okay. So that's really what we're going to talk about. And one of the things that I often get asked about, what if I don't have a cycle, right? What if I'm on something that keeps me from ovulating, or I'm past that stage in my life and I'm no longer doing so? I want you to understand that your body still goes through all of those ebbs and flows. And so a lot of people, what they will actually do is cycle, or they will sync to the moon, because the moon has a very similar pattern of that 28 days that we as the feminine energy have as well. So whether you are actually cycling or not, it doesn't matter. You can still follow the same kind of gauge. And honestly and truthfully, when you start getting more in tune and paying attention to the things around you, you will know when you're in these different stages. Okay. whether you physically got things going on or not, you like, oh, that's right, because I ain't feel like doing another thing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, you will recognize, and it will make perfect sense. So one thing that I just want to say, some days we feel on top of the world, we feel productive. We're checking all of the things on our priority list, right? Everything seems to fall into place.
Yeah.
And then there's days where we wake up and you're like, all I want to do is watch Netflix. Yes. Right? I don't even want to send that email. I don't want to meet with those people. I don't want to do any of the things. And what happens, because our society is so ingrained in this 24-hour cycle, is that then we feel guilty, right? We feel like I'm lazy. I should be doing more. I could have gotten more done. And the reality is that's just not true. Okay. I would love, ladies, if you can tap in anything when it comes to just understanding, especially once we kind of bring out this whole like circadian rhythm versus what, of course, us and the feminine energy with our 28 days. Is there anything for you ladies that kind of were just stopping at this point, eye-opening for you, that you could kind of lean into for your business?
I think the piece I can really resonate with, you know, you saying when you're more in tune with your body, because I think, like you said, it's male energy. It is what it is. We're trying to change it. I'm sorry, guys. We coming for the throne, but we don't work like that. And like you said before, and I can't remember when Dayna, it's been, maybe it was a year ago, maybe probably less than when Dayna gave this talk, but I had felt like those things, like I don't want to deal with nobody. I don't want to talk to nobody. Leave me alone. But the moment you hear a garage door open or a car slam, you jumping up, throwing on clothes, like, let me pretend like I did something. And I felt bad outwardly, but internally I was like, my body was like, no, sis, go right back to that place. You needed to be there. And I just didn't understand. So I wasn't listening to my body. And I think that the more that I did, the better I was in my business, because I knew when to show up. I love when Dayna says she only schedules things based on her times. And I just love that. And that helped me hugely.
Yes. Love it, love it, love it.
Well, in my business, dealing with babies and mamas and all of those things, it didn't dawn on me. Yes, I knew it was a cycle and I knew, but I didn't think that, oh, well, maybe I need to look at myself and see how I feel. So once I went through, I think it was a while back, a few months ago, we went through this with Dayna and she was explaining everything. I was like, oh yeah, that one day after everything is done, I feel like I can just go take over the world. And then I slowly taper off. I think she explained it in the beginning where she said they say start at the beginning of the day and then taper off. Well, I'm like that. After it's done, I'm like, yes, let's go. And then I taper off through the month. And I'm trying to communicate that, or just have that whole thing set in my business. And that's done a whole lot of wonders trying to get the people on board at home.
Yes.
They ain't having that.
Yes. So let's jump into those different cycles. And I'd love to start with menstruation. So the reason I'm going to start with menstruation is because in general, if you are, have this cycle and from the feminine energy, this is probably the easiest one to understand, right? So it's from the time, if you are cycling at the moment, you start bleeding till you stop bleeding, right? So depending on each female is a little bit different, but generally this could be like 3 to 7 days, okay? And the reason I want to start here is because there's a lot going on when it comes to our estrogen levels. There's a lot going on when it comes to our fatigue and our emotions and our feelings and a lot of these different things. And so when you kind of put all of that together, it's so important that we understand what's going on in our body and why we are operating and managing the way that we are managing. So during menstruation, the right and left hemispheres are communicating across from each other. Okay, so the way they're of interacting and they're reacting to each other, it's cross and going like this. So I just want you to kind of just imagine, right? Like when you have one side of like the room speaking about one thing and then the other side of the room speaking about another thing, what's going on, right? Like at that time, you're like, I'm clouded. I can't function. Yeah. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of things going on. What is happening, right? And so that's what's happening for us in our brain during this period of time. And so I always caution people during this time. This is not the time to be making like life-changing decisions, right? Like this is not the time for you to be like, I'm going to start a new business, right? Because what's going to happen is your left hemisphere and your right hemisphere, like your creative brain is like, this is the best idea ever. And then your logical brain's like, this is stupid. You shouldn't do this. And everything's going to fail, right? Like, and so it's all of this communication going on. And then we don't understand why we're like crashing and burning. Right? We don't understand like why things are not manifesting the way that we know that they should. But at this time in the cycle, you are the most able to synthesize facts about situations and process how you feel about them to determine the best path forward. So I want you to think about this is the time to go inward, right? This is the time when the conversations with yourself are going to be the most meaningful. But this is not the time that you want to necessarily vocalize that to everybody else, because in a few days you might feel completely different. Okay. So it's important to know that. So am I echoing a little bit? I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me echoing? Or is that just me? Sorry.
Yeah. No, I don't hear echo.
Okay, let me turn me down a little bit. So it's also important to support your body during this time. Okay, so the other thing that we really talk about when it comes to our business, if we are not right here from a holistic standpoint, none of the other things are going to go right. Okay, so it's important that during this period of time, because you're going to be more fatigued, you're going to be more tired, that you're fueling your body with things that are energetic and living. So even when it comes to foods, you want to have foods that are alive, that are going to give you that stamina, that energy, and revive you. Okay. So make sure during this period of time that you're super clear. But again, you're going from within. This is a great time to even like jot things down, but leave it on a piece of paper and come back to it in a few days when you are out of that menstruation cycle. Because you probably will come up with some creative things. You'll have some wonderful ideas, but unfortunately you might also have the pieces of your brain that are like, oh, destruction and everything is bad, right? So you want to be super careful during this time period. But the beautiful thing about this is, again, generally this is 3 to 7 days of the entire month, okay? Now we do get the short end of the stick a little bit later, but I'll chat about that. Is there anything, ladies, that you want to just add on when it comes to that menstruation or that portion of the cycle?
When you talked about being fatigued and just more tired, how do you not? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I can't speak for everybody. I tend to get cravings. And so giving into those cravings, I mean, I feel like I should have 15 million bowls of ice cream if I feel like it, if I want to, and lay in my bed all day. How do I not give into those cravings? Or how can I support my body more holistically versus eating 15 million bowls of ice cream? Because that's what I want to do. I want to be left alone and eat my ice cream.
And so during that period of time, it is important that you eat warming foods. So that could be a whole topic on itself. So I'm not going to go too deep on the food aspect of it, but you do want to, because again, you want to nourish your body. So it's saying, I need comfort, I need warmth, right? So it is important that you feed it those things, but understand that when it comes to something like eating a bowl of ice cream, because it's sugar, right? All you're doing is you're going to crash your system. So you're going to get like a high, and then you're just going to crash. So the thing is, during that period of time, you want to fuel with living things. So think of all things live. So that's when fruits, vegetables, stews, soups, but things that have a lot of like life in it that you want to kind of fuel your body with during that period of time. Because that's really what's going to actually nourish those things, as well as you think about during that period of time, usually your blood sugar goes low. So you want iron rich things to kind of pull that up too. If you're fueling your body with a lot of living things, it actually is going to cut some of your cravings. The problem is a lot of times we have the craving, we eat the sugar, we get the high, and then, I mean, sugar is an addiction. So like, then our brain is like, I liked that. That felt good. Do it again, right? So then you eat more ice cream, right? And then it's like, again. So it's just going to be a cycle of a loop until you kind of like reset that.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one, because that could set you up for crap, basically, once you've come out of that for the next stages, and then you just kind of feel sluggish. For me, I think the only thing that I want to touch on for this is I 100% echo and agree with, this is when you want to make sure that, you know, all of your hormones are balanced. I know Dayna and I both said we have like this aversion to saying balance, but it's about hormones. And if you're having like mega dips and you don't have a way to support, you know, those estrogen and those progesterone levels, you're probably going to feel those heavy hitting effects that can last further and make it worse. So definitely that was a huge like had to do for me. And I know now that I'm on like over the hump, I'm in check, like all of this is so much easier, even when it was like mind blowing in the beginning. So definitely, ladies, get that balance, because it'll feel even greater when you take this and implement them both together.
Love it. So because we started with like doomsday, now we're going to go to the good part. So the thing to keep in mind when you're in menstruation is, right after I get out of this, it's fire, y'all. It's straight fire. Okay. So this is when you feel on top of the world. This is when you can do all of the things. And I know it sounds crazy, because again, we get the short end of the stick because this is only 7 to 10 days, right? But I promise you, if you batch schedule and really work along this cycle, what you can do in like 7 to 10 days is mind blowing in the impact of what the average person can do in 30 days. Okay. And I'm living proof of that. Like, so I love when people tell me all the time, they're like, oh my goodness, Dayna, you're everywhere. Like you're going live here, you're going there. And I'm like, yeah, nope. In those 7 to 10 days, that's when I recorded all of the things, all of the content, all of the stuff, because I knew that that's where I would have that energy. That's where I knew I was going to be at the most. So if you're trying to start a business, if you're starting to think about something creative, you're ready to launch, you know that you have a workshop that everybody's going to be watching you and you need to be on stage, it's time to do that in this follicular phase, which happens right after menstruation, because that's when you're going to be highest of your energy. That's when, again, now you're having clarity in those left and right hemispheres, where it's like, oh, those crazy ideas you had yesterday, all of a sudden, like, we know how to implement them. And please let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced this, where you're like, I had this crazy creative idea and I had no idea how to implement it. And I woke up one morning and all of a sudden it was like, the heavens opened up and it was like, this is the way. walk in it, right? Like it was like, you're like, wait a minute. And every door seemed to open up and everything seemed to fall into place and everything. It's because you're in that follicular. It's because you're now at the top of your game because everything is moving the way it should in your body. So, again, if you wanted to start a business, plan a cross-country road trip, or make sense of all your midnight idea dumps, this is the phase where you'll feel more in your creative genius zone. So the follicular phase starts right after your bleeding ends, when your reproductive hormones are at their lowest level. This is known as a phase of new beginnings, where subtle increases in estrogen in your brain have you feeling curious, inspired, and in planning mode. Okay, y'all? So this is a wonderful, wonderful period of time. Again, I feel y'all, because I do feel like, again, 7 to 10 days. Wait a minute. Like, that's all we get. That's all we get, right? But I promise you, if you lean into this, you're going to be running circles around like everybody. You're going to be running circles because you really are going to move into the highest space of that. So that's what I have a little bit on follicular. I don't know if you ladies want to add anything on follicular.
I'm just going to go ahead and say, I'm going to be the person to say it. This is probably when you feel like, oh, I'm motivated. So what Dayna was talking about, that menstruation part where you're doing quittings, where you're like, I'm going to quit. I'm done. I'm not doing it no more. I'm done. Like, you're doing all those everyday quits. That's when you're cycling. And then all of a sudden you're like, yo, today I am motivated. And it does suck that you got less, but you're on a clock. You know you're on a clock. Get those priority lists to get this thing in order, but stop looking at it as motivation. I know we talked about this in a past episode. Go check that out. But motivation is not reliable. You cannot trust it, and because you got 7 to 10 days with this play motivation to knock all the things out. So again, I cannot stress how you get all of these things down and realize that it wasn't all of a sudden you randomly motivated yourself. It was your body was like, all right, girl, we fresh, let's go. So
Yep.
yeah.
Love it. So with that, we can hop on into the next phase, luteal. So luteal phase is a funky phase. It's fun, it's funky, but there still can be some great things that happen here in luteal. So luteal usually is about 10 to 14 days. And the reason I say it can be a little bit funky, but here's the thing, because in your previous phase, you've taken all the action and you've kind of set yourself up. This is the time in luteal to kind of plan. So this is when you want to have the conversations that you need to have. You want to make the connections that are going to serve you for the future phases. So while I wouldn't necessarily, for me anyways, and knowing my personality, everybody's a little bit different. This wouldn't be when I schedule like my big events or speaking engagements or things like that. But this would be times where I would still schedule some networking. As long as I don't have to control the networking. Like, this is still a period where I would show up, I would connect with people, I would look to build relationships. I would kind of reflect and really understand what's going on during this period of time. So as your energy levels wind down towards the end of this phase, you may find yourself more inward focused. So this is, again, when you might notice, like, you're like, I have all this creative flow, but I just need to get quiet, right? Like, so I've communicated, I've connected, but now I need to like really analyze how this is going to look, how this is going to work, how this is going to feel, right? So it's a beautiful, beautiful phase. This is one that, again, sometimes can be a little bit different for different ladies. But when it comes to business, when it comes to productivity, if you lean into that, I find even in luteal, I do a lot of like recording of reels and stuff. Just because, again, it's something I can do solo. So I don't necessarily need like the support of other people, or, you know, it's something that I can batch and just toss aside and edit it and figure out where it fits in my content and things like that. So again, it's not all doomsday, right? But it's a beautiful, beautiful phase if you lean into it, how your body kind of responds to it. Anything you ladies wanted to add into luteal?
I just find it funny how you mentioned the planning phase, or when you mentioned in the beginning not to make rash decisions. And I feel like maybe, I don't know, this is just me thinking, maybe this is why my husband just decides on everything for us. Even though I tell him where to go and what to do, I have a knee-jerk reaction sometimes. And before I started paying attention to my cycle and syncing everything up, I would just go out there and just do, all right, let's go. We're going to do this today, and not even think about what's going on. But in the luteal phase, like the planning, I think men going through that 24-hour cycle is not fair, because he wants to plan everything every day. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Now it's time to get to work. Now it's time to do this. I'm not thinking about I'm not thinking about planning anything. I've already done the planning. We talked about this last week. We did this last week. So I just find that very interesting how that coincides with his whole thing that he has going on 24 hours. And then me with this 10 to 14 days of where I sit down and I plan things. All right. And then I'm ready to get to work. And he just do that every single day. No, this ain't gonna work. This is not working out. And I think men, like she said in the beginning, like Tameka said in the beginning, men need to be listening to this, because I don't have time to plan every day.
I love it.
Yeah, I think I just, like Dayna said, I think this is an amazing, as much as I love the energy, I think that quietness of sitting and planning, like once you get a hold of it, because obviously hearing it right now, you're like, that just sounds like backwards. Like, shouldn't we all do this? But when you know, like, all right, I'm having that dip. Now let me just sit and, like Dayna said, reflect. So then when I make this complete circle and I come back to this 7 to 10 business days that I got to do the right, I know where I'm going. And I think that this is for all of my overthinkers, for all my people that don't like to be put into a box, this is your phase to, like Dayna said, do the things that you can do alone, and really, like, because I'm with Dayna, like if I can sit and I take my notebook and I get creative like a mug. So I know now, you know, when that 6.5 day comes and I'm ready to hit that 7 and go running, I'm like Dayna said, you can crush it. What people can do in 30 days in that week and a half, if you really like lean into this luteal phase.
Love it. Yes. So
I love
then
it.
I'm
not a planner. I be like, don't come at me with no planning now.
Sorry. I think I got delayed. I don't know if I'm delayed a little bit. Okay.
You're not delayed for me.
Okay. Sorry, y'all. So yes to all of that. I love it. For sure. So when we get into ovulation, okay, so just when you think about ovulation, right, is when we are to have the baby, right? Like, so this is like that time where, like, sadly, again, this is only like really a day, but like you can feel the effects maybe 2 to 3 days, but it really is a day of the month. But ovulation is when, like, you can put on the killer outfit. You can, like, nobody can tell you anything. You're unstoppable. Like, you are ready to, like, take over the world. And all of the dreams and ideas you've ever had, you have all of the intensity to be like, let's do this. Let's go. Right? So again, when we kind of like reflect on those other phases and put that where it is, right? This is when you should have your speaking engagements, right? This is when you should be on stage. This is when you should, because you're going to feel the most powerful. because that's what our body was supposed to do, right? So it was when in mating season, right? When you're like, I want to be appealing to the opposite sex and have babies, right? So it still energetically does that for us as a woman during ovulation, for us to show up fearless, for us to show up and be able to truly connect. Like, this is the time when, even when you had those people that were doubting you and these type of things, and they come to you and you're like, wait a minute, actually, let me tell you what I've done, right? So this is a great phase to lean into as well, because even though it's super short, this is when you really should take some action. This is when, like, those hard conversations, this is when you need to have them. Like, you're like, actually, girl, no, this is my dream. This is my vision. Show me the proof of why this isn't going to work. So I love, again, leaning into that. So now, granted, I can't always make sure that people schedule their events for me to speak the day of my ovulation, right? But again, when you understand these aspects of your cycle, it's going to do better for you. I have a speaking engagement coming up in April. And originally the date that she had to move it a week, I think, behind or something like that. And it actually was better for me. I was like, great, girl, sign me up. Yep, I'm all in. Like, before I was like, little hesitant, but because it actually fit better with my cycle, I'm like, rock star, let's do it. I'm ready for it. So I, again, love teaching about this. If you want more in-depth and more specifics to you, and even if you're like, oh my goodness, all of this sounds great, but again, I'm on that other end where I have no idea how to gauge any of these things, I can help with that too. Because I really do feel like when we lean into these things, we are more productive, our business flows better, and the results that we get are a reflection of that. People can tell when you're like in that, we'll just say, when you're in that stage of, I don't want to talk to nobody, I dislike everyone, and yet you're still up there trying to sell something, and they're like, ooh, I don't want nothing from you, right? So keep all of those things in mind. I do think it's super powerful. And I hope that this was helpful. I know it was game changing for me. And so that's why I know, for me personally, I love sharing about it. I do think that it's something that even culturally, we don't address and speak very openly about it, right? I feel like it becomes, you're lazy, or you need to show up, or you need to shoot that. And then we feel shame, and then we don't feel good enough. And then it affects everything else that we do. So that's my little tidbit on all of the things. I hope it was helpful.
I'm glad you first and foremost, y'all, jump in the comments while you got Dayna. If you are a leader in your industry, I don't care if you have a brick and mortar business, if you have men, if you're listening, you better be listening. First of all, I'm tagging everybody with PP. Okay, listen, if you have feminine energy around you, you have women around you, you have daughters, women, mothers, people stepping into the business world that have a cycle, y'all, get with Dayna, get in her DMs, her Hotmail. She don't have Hotmail, Gmail, inbox, all of those things, and book this with her. You will not regret it. It is life-changing. And I know this was, we try to be respectful of y'all time and not take up too much of your Wednesday evening, but this is definitely worth the in-depth information that she can give you and support you, because it's huge. It was life-changing for me. I'm sure my family, even though they don't know that that's the reason, they're probably like, ooh, it's a little different. I like that, especially my husband. But I like that Dayna ended saying, culturally and just as a society, it's something that we don't talk about, and we want to talk like it's like this gross thing that happens, and we should have a scarlet, M on so that people know to avoid you. But it needs to be talked about, and it is a beautiful part of you that, if you understand it, you can use it to elevate yourself. I know this is like super controversial. I remember when it came out, and I didn't want to. What is the movie called? The Disney movie Turning Red or whatever it was called. I know plenty of moms that were like, I would never let my kids wanted to watch it. I have boys, y'all. They put it on. I was like, let's watch it. And it's a great learning experience that we don't talk about that part of our lives enough, that we have a zero understanding. Even more so, men have a zero understanding because they run on that 24 hours. So definitely, y'all, I know she might be super busy and you heard her to book her on her one day, but so y'all gonna be fighting for spots, but book her for real, because this will be life changing for your teams, for the women who are around you that are trying to maybe elevate themselves and they can't figure out where they're getting stuck. They're feeling less motivated. It may not even be that, it could be some other things, but it definitely, more than likely, is just this whole thing that you're not catching your cycles. You're not catching those points, and you got to get it. Y'all got to have it. Y'all got to have it. Andriana, you ain't got nothing, girl. You quiet over there.
I'm sorry. I thought this was ending. I'm sorry, y'all. So much information out there. Let us know in the comments if any of this resonated with you, or if you just figured, I don't know, cycle syncing, who knew, with a business that you needed, because we need this. We needed it. If you needed to do this, because I feel like it's very, very beneficial, especially for my folks over here. Because as for me, I wasn't regular in the beginning, and then a sufferer of endometriosis. This has helped out a whole lot. So for my sisters with other things going on and trying to regulate your cycles, if you need help with it, holla at your girl. Yeah, we need this. And I appreciate Dayna for all of this, because it was good. A refresher course for me for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this episode was a little selfish. The information. I know I took tons of notes when she did it for us. I don't know how long ago it was, but I know I took tons of notes and I go back to it. But y'all, we appreciate you hanging out with us. I cannot believe that we are heading towards the end of 2022. Woo! Now, if there's any way that either of us, the three of us together as a community, as a group, can support you now in the future, please do not hesitate to reach out. That is why we do this collaborative conversation. We love to hear from you. We've had some amazing conversations with those of you who jumped on episodes, whether you caught them weeks later or the day of. We truly appreciate you allowing us to, raid your rooms, your living rooms, wherever you at watching this. We appreciate you. And we hope that you have an amazing week, the rest of your week. If you are going through any of those cycles, get ready for next month. You can have an amazing 2023. Look at that. This was right on time. All right, y'all. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you next Wednesday. Same time, same place, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central. I got it, y'all. All right. Talk to you later.